Norway has a GDP per capita of over $100,000, ranking third highest globally. But the nation's economic prosperity comes from the fossil fuel industry, one of the largest oil exporters in the world. After almost 50 years of depending on the oil economy, revenue declined as the world shifted to renewable energy. Now, Norway seeks alternative solutions to maintain its massive cash flow, even if oil money disappears shortly. Not so surprisingly, the government chose the green tech industry to set up the next economic miracle by becoming self-sufficient in green innovation and the global supplier of rare earth minerals, a deal-breaker for the semiconductor and EV industries, and renewable energy technologies like solar and wind. Luckily, Norway's geography, as astonishing as it is gifted with one of the largest sources of critical minerals in Europe. Deep inside Telemark, near Lake Nordsjø, lies a geological marvel, the Fen Complex. This isn't just any ancient formation. It's a 580-million-year-old volcano hidden beneath the surface. The volcano's magma feeds the area with rare earth minerals and is estimated to be Europe's most extensive occurrence. Without such minerals, Europe can't become self-sufficient in future wind turbines, mobile phones, or defense equipment. This is extremely important, as China dominates most of the supply of rare earth minerals. With 44 million tons of rare earth oxide, accounting for about 34% of the total, China dominates the world rare earth oxide reserve. In 2022, China accounted for 70% of the world's mine production of rare earths. The EU alone imports about 98% of its minerals from China. Thanks to lax environmental standards, China has dominated rare earth minerals in recent decades as Western producers left the industry. Now that metal demand is increasing to meet the goal of net zero by 2050, reducing dependence on China has become necessary, and the EU is seeking to become self-sufficient. The timing couldn't be better for Norway. After their discovery in Telemark, they aim to supply about 10% of the rising global demand for these metals. However, it's not the only place. The world's largest phosphate deposits have been found in the Arrogance area of Rogaland County in southwestern Norway, enough to meet the world's demand for the next 50 years. Phosphate is a critical raw material used in lithium iron phosphate, or LFP, batteries for electric vehicles, fertilizers, and other applications. With that kind of reserve, Norway might become a strategic powerhouse for the EU, just like oil, to supply these minerals, reducing reliance on imports, especially from Russia and China. For Norway, the plan for reserving minerals goes far beyond its mainland, from this 280,000 square kilometer area in the Arctic Ocean. A few critical questions need to be explored. Is rare earth extraction, or REE, worth pursuing, even though it might bring an irreversible environmental catastrophe? And economically, are rare earth minerals replacing Norway's oil revenues, as the government implies, the next oil? If not, then what truth lies behind the decision? This is a story of the dark truth of Norway's economic miracle. Rare earth minerals contain 17 elements, including some fancy names like lanthanum, praseodymium, and neodymium. Although it may sound like rare earth minerals are hard to find, that's actually not the case. There are abundant sources of minerals worldwide, but the problem is that it's hard to see them all in one economically viable place to extract and process. Because of their chemical makeup, rare earth minerals are challenging to extract from other materials, and their processing can produce hazardous waste. For Norway, the big and significant challenge is to reduce the environmental impacts of mining. The Fen Complex, for instance, is a remote place where local people have been hunting and fishing for generations. Now, they're in fear that mining will destroy their environment, the consequence of which is pollution and radioactive and toxic mining waste. The mining companies are saying that they'll use next-generation technologies to reduce carbon emissions, and the government is also stating that they'll closely regulate mining to protect the environment. The question is, how much is worth believing? This year, Norway officially became the first country to start deep-sea mining exploration, creating controversy over whether the decision was made considering the prospects of the ocean ecosystem. You see, the deep-sea floor, rich in potato-shaped polymetallic nodules, a source of massive sulfides, and cobalt crusts, lay around for millions of years, untouched by humans. And these miners see the ocean as their next venture. Countries are in a rat race to get their first hands on the rich metal zones. In the past few years, the International Seabed Authority and the UN's ocean laws, like the Law of the Sea, have prevented mining until now. Some places, like Clarion Clipperton and the Pacific Ocean, got permission for exploration trials, pressured by a net zero agenda and a giant metal mining industry. That makes Norway's case pretty shocking at the early stage, without seeing through what implications seabed mining may have in the future, both environmentally and economically. But just like digging the land for fossil fuels or minerals can lead to environmental degradation, deep-sea mining is poised to cause a similar, if not more severe effects. Here's why. Once the mineral-rich areas are pinpointed, the extraction begins on the ocean floor, 200 to 6,500 meters below the surface. These machines can be thought of as giant underwater bulldozers and vacuum cleaners. They scrape and suck up the top layers of the seabed, collecting the nodules, crusts, and deposits that contain the desired minerals. During mining operations, it can destroy vast areas of habitat, slowly wiping out the biodiversity of deep-sea organisms that have adapted to extreme conditions over millennia. Now, these ecosystems play critical roles in global processes such as carbon sequestration and nutrient cycling. The sediment plumes and toxic discharges from mining operations could spread over vast distances, suffocating marine life far beyond the mining sites. The irreversible damage to the seafloor and harmful substances could lead to a domino effect that might decimate entire populations, destabilize ecosystems, which we don't fully understand, and further contribute to global climate change. About 27 countries officially opposed seabed mining, while France officially banned it. Environmental activists are protesting against Norway's decision all over Europe, and scientists and environmental organizations are disappointed. Historically, however, it's important to emphasize that Norway may not be among the worst offenders while exploiting natural resources at the expense of the environment. In fact, Norway has a long-standing reputation for balancing economic growth with environmental stewardship, often leading to sustainable practices and environmental conservation. However, this time, Norway might be wrong and about to put its name on the list of worst environmental offenders. The government's decision for seabed mining covers parts of the Norwegian Sea and Greenland Sea, which is almost as large as Italy. The ocean ecosystem is also one of the most diverse and unique in the Arctic region. Deep down, 3,000 to 4,000 meters on the Norwegian continental shelf, there are 38 million metric tons of copper, 45 million metric tons of zinc, and 2,317 tons of gold on the seabed, and a considerable amount of manganese crusts and sulfides worth hundreds of billions of dollars, possibly even trillions. The problem is that the Norwegian government wants to claim this area as its own and refuses to share it with its neighboring states, which is also controversial. According to the Law of the Sea, made by the UN, it allows nations to mine oil, gas, or any other activity like fishing only 200 nautical miles from their coastline, aka the exclusive economic zone. Beyond 200 miles, the ocean is an open resource for all humankind, known as the area.
Over just the last few years, say the last 5 years, we've actually had an increase in the number of organizations that are applying for contracts to explore.
Things are getting worse as there isn't a competitive international legal framework for deep-sea mining in the area. With countries and the mining industry's overwhelming pressures, the International Seabed Authority, a UN-affiliated body, is expected to finalize rules with a final vote in 2025. More than 30 countries favor a temporary ban on deep-sea mining to prevent potential environmental impacts. That's why Norway's unilateral decision to advance seabed mining activities beyond its territory might cause legal disputes or failure to get permission. So, why is Norway pushing seabed mining and envisioning it under environmental and international criticism? This policy shift did not occur overnight.
Several Norwegian companies and universities have already started developing new techniques to harvest the minerals.
It results from extensive lobbying by both the government and private companies. The proposal to authorize deep-sea mining was initiated by the ministry that has overseen Norway's huge offshore oil industry for decades.
That some people come to the conclusion that we should not conduct activities.
Mining companies like Loke Marine Minerals and its stakeholders, Technip FMC, Wilhelmsen, Nordsee, and Kongsberg have invested in and advocated for seabed mining while downplaying the environmental risks. Their efforts have included extensive lobbying campaigns to influence policymakers and the public, such as creating jobs and replacing oil, to build support for opening the Seabed mine. There are two economic benefits the government is seeking. First, they want to secure a new source of revenue that could offset the expected decline in oil. Norway's massive government pension fund Global, often called the Oil Fund, is a cornerstone of the nation's economic strategy. This fund, the largest globally, currently holds over $1.4 trillion in assets, sourced primarily from Norway's oil and gas revenues. As Norway's oil reserves dwindle and global shifts toward renewable energy intensify, the energy sector seeks to exploit the ocean. As a matter of fact, the Petroleum Safety Authority Norway changed its name to the Norwegian Ocean Industry Authority. Despite huge efforts to present it as an economic miracle,
millions are invested in the race for deep-sea mining.
The question is whether rare earth minerals can become the new oil for Norway, providing a substantial and sustainable economic boost. According to the Ministry of Energy's narrative, the rare earth mineral sector, especially seabed mining, can replace revenues and create thousands of jobs in the marine field. Currently, China and other nations dominate the supply of many critical minerals, causing price hikes due to global crises such as war, tariffs, or inflation. This poses a strategic risk, as geopolitical tensions or trade restrictions can disrupt access to these essential materials. Norway's early entry into the sector positions it to establish itself as a key player in this emerging market. But is this really the economic game-changer it's made out to be? The EU's critical minerals market is worth several billion euros annually. Capturing a 10% share would mean potentially generating a few hundred million euros in revenue each year. However, the second motivation is more accurate: Norway's green innovations. Norway is committed to achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Although 90% of its energy sector runs on renewable energy like hydropower, it's expanding its renewable energy infrastructure, such as wind power and EV adoption. The Scandinavian nation has the highest rate of electric vehicle sales. The problem is a massive shortage of metals to meet the net zero target by 2050. Globally, we need 6 times more metal reserves to achieve that target. Altogether, the government and oil industry sought to create an economic miracle by introducing rare earth mining, innovating green technologies, exporting products that would replace oil, and creating high-skilled jobs. The question we seek is it a win-win for Norway? One crucial question is whether minerals can become the new oil for Norway. However, despite recent declines, oil and gas contribute over $70 billion annually. The comparison to minerals is challenging. While minerals might generate significant revenue, they likely won't match the scale or longevity of oil wealth. China only makes $600 million per year exporting rare earths. However, the market for green technologies will be huge in the upcoming decade. Additionally, the Norwegian minerals industry could generate a yearly revenue of up to $20 billion, compared to the $70 billion for oil and gas in 2023. For Norway, considering how much revenue they make from fossil fuels, the numbers seem not to be as lucrative at all. There are also other implications as well. The number one factor is the potential for price drops. If mineral mining becomes widely adopted, especially seabed mining, the influx of newly available resources could drive down prices. Historically, increased supply has decreased market value, as seen with other commodities. For instance, land-based lithium and cobalt mining saw price drops due to oversupply and advancements in extraction technologies. If seabed mining follows a similar trajectory, the anticipated financial windfall from these resources might be significantly diminished. Secondly, how the government represents job creation might not actually be the case. A sudden surge in available minerals means disrupting existing industries, leading to job losses. Indirectly, the petroleum sector contributes around 200,000 jobs throughout Norway, whereas the newly expected marine minerals industry will create about 21,000 jobs. Lastly, the technical challenges of deep-sea or land mining are immense. They involve advanced machines, reduced carbon technologies, and substantial financial investment. The cost of developing and deploying these technologies may outweigh the potential benefits, especially if mineral prices drop. Watching the government's ignorance of real implications is steeped in the same extractive mindset that has historically driven economic prosperity and environmental degradation. Therefore, the Norwegian government's focus on economic gains raises questions about its commitment to genuine sustainable development. The dilemma is profound. If we as a society want to keep producing more electric cars, mobile phones, and computers, deep-sea mining might be justifiable. But we need to ask a bigger question. Is technology the solution to our sustainability problems? If not, maybe we must rethink our approach and find a new way forward. Whatever Norway decides for or brings into its future, in any case, it's at least economically stable and can take care of its citizens, don't you think? Well, that's not the case, as our next video will be why living in northern Norway is impossible.